Vice President Harris has been accused of adopting a fake urban accent to appeal to black and working class voters after delivering the same speech in two different voices just a few hours apart.
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. Thank unions for sick leave. Thank unions for paid family leave.
Many people making this observation have, of course, been accused of racism, as was former President Trump, for claiming that Harris only recently started identifying as black. Whether it really matters or not is besides the point. What's striking is the taboo and how difficult it now is to ask questions about race without being promptly branded a racist.
You better thank a union member. You know, I think all of us know, man, that she is doing this. And again, I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. I mean, you can say whatever you want. You can use whatever accent you want to use. Again, people appeal to certain demographics that way. But you can't ask about it. You can't say anything about it if you're white. You can ask. You can't comment. I think now that's what the problem is. We've gotten to a place in the country, in the Western world, to where nobody can ask. Nobody can ask what you're doing. Nobody can say, hey, wait a minute, you didn't really talk black before. Why are you doing it now? Nobody can say anything. You know, and again, even in criticism, if you're criticizing somebody, again, you bring up race and you're white. Oh my God. Oh my God!
Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman?, shone an uncompromising light on gender insanity, and his new movie, Am I a Racist?, turns its glare on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he joins me now. Matt, great to have you back on Uncensored.
Hi, Piers. Thanks for having me.
Just want to start before we get into the movie, which is great, by the way, as was the last one. Kamala Harris and her accent. Is it racist to even ask why she's talking in a different accent?
No, I mean, of course not. And look, many Democrat politicians in particular have done this, where they take on a different tone, a different accent, depending on the audience. It's just that with Kamala Harris, we get this really, especially the most recent thing, where it's the exact same lines she's giving a couple of hours apart, and it's just, of course, it's very noticeable. Everybody notices it, and it's insulting to the intelligence of the people that she's trying to pander to. And on top of it, as many have pointed out, you know, the accent she puts on, it sounds like Foghorn Leghorn or something. It's not. It doesn't even sound like what she's trying to make it sound like. So, because she grew up in Montreal, Canada, and so she should just embrace that fact about herself and be authentic. That's all we're really asking for. Is
but
just
in a way, it's a prime.
Be authentic is what we want.
Right. I mean, in a way, it's a prime example of the kind of thing you talk about in the movie, which is that this sort of weaponizing of calling people racist whenever they raise any issue or question about anything related to race is a real problem in modern society. It's fueled by social media, by cancel culture, by all of these terribly insidious things which are going on. And what it creates is an atmosphere where people almost dare not talk about anything to do with race.
That's what the issue is. I mean, again, if you're white, if you're male, you can't have an opinion on anything to do with black, brown, people of color, women of color, even women, especially if you're white, if you're a white man. Again, that's what the problem is. We don't have all the voices there. We don't have male. We don't have white male. Because again, everyone can discount that. I mean, again, if you're a woman of color, if you criticize her at all, like Kamala Harris, again, you're doing that because you're a racist. You're a racist person. You're a bigot. If you dare question why a woman almost 60 years old from Montreal, Canada, who should be saying things like, hey, guy, and a boot. And she's talking about like a Southern black woman. Yeah. I mean, again, that is what the problem is. I mean, you can't say anything about it. If you're white, especially if you're a white male, you can't say a word about it. And again, that's how they get people to keep quiet.
Exactly. And that's because you have, and this is what we try to expose in the film, you have these grifters, these so-called anti-racist types, DEI types, and this is their goal. This is what they do. They try to make these conversations completely, fraught. They want you to be focused on it all the time. They come to you and they say, oh, you think you're not racist because you think racism is a simple thing. If you don't hate people of other races, you think you're not racist. But actually, you are racist. And the fact that you think you aren't racist is just more evidence that you are even more racist than you thought. And they keep people in, it's like, for people that fall into this, it becomes this like spiral where they're looking into themselves, constantly inspecting their own minds and their own motivations and sort of convincing themselves that they're actually racist when they aren't. And part of that is, again, making the concept of racism way more complicated and abstract than it actually is, because in reality, racism is just having a negative opinion of someone because of their race, thinking a certain race is inferior to yourself. That's racist. If you don't have that feeling about someone, then you're not racist. You might have other flaws, we all do, but you're not racist. Congratulations. You can just move on from that. But they don't want you.
Yeah, they don't want you moving on from that. They want you stuck there. And the reason why is because control. Again, if you can make somebody else feel guilty for something that they never did, I mean, again, you have control over them big time. I mean, you can tell them how they should think, how they should feel, what to do, how to vote, what to care about, what not to care about. I mean, we have truly got to understand it's every damn bit of it, this racist bullshit is about control. Every single damn bit of it. And again, people, they tout that like, no. Again, we have to bring people together by telling white people they got to feel guilty about this or bad about that. And, again, they have to, process. Everyone has to process their feelings. It's like, that's not real. That's not real. Again, that 25-year-old black person over there was never a slave. They were never oppressed in any way, not at least due to the color of their skin. They were born in 1999 or whatever. They're not oppressed. They never have been. Not due to their race. I mean, maybe mama was a bitch and daddy wasn't around. I mean, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, man, they had the same rights and freedoms that everyone has. But like I said, things get kind of mixed up when you tell a certain race to feel bad, to feel guilty because of all the stuff that they have done. I mean, not them, but, people in the past that kind of look like them have done. And again, it's not legal. But people give away their rights when they feel that they've done something wrong. They have to atone.
Because there's so much other stuff being thrown out there which just isn't racism. And so actual racism gets kind of lost in the wash. I want to just show viewers who've not obviously seen the movie yet, which is, I can't encourage them to do it enough. It's fantastic. This is a clip from the trailer for it.
Let's be clear what's happening in this country. It's Nazism. Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up in the 90s, I never thought much about race. Sure, you noticed, but never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me.
Being a white, straight, cisgender man, it's the top of the pile.
I'm on the top of the pile. That's me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
Can you please leave?
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover. If I want to be an ally, I need to look like one.
What is racism?
Martin Luther King said not to judge people by the...
Martin Luther King said a lot of stuff.
Is America inherently racist?
What the hell is that?
The word inherent is challenging there. America is racist to its bones. All of the...
So inherently.
Yeah.
The entire system has to burn. And I'm not going to even use save this country. This country is not worth saving. This country is a piece of shit.
It's kind of terrifying, you know, and but riveting. You go undercover, kind of Borat style. It's great. It's a great idea the way you do this. But as I was watching it, it reminded me of something that was said by Morgan Freeman many years ago. I think it was a 60 Minutes interview. Let's take a little clip of what he said then.
I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman.
I love the simplicity of that from Morgan Freeman. He wasn't saying there isn't racism, but he's saying the way to stop this incessant stuff that you've exposed in your movie is to just stop making it such a big issue all the time.
You know, guys, man, Morgan Freeman's right. 100%. 100%. I mean, again, whatever I can do, as a middle-aged white man, a middle-aged black man can do. You know, again, with the same skills, with the same whatever. You know, we truly have to understand that. There is no racism going on except the other way around. I mean, again, there's all kinds of programs, DEI programs, affirmative action programs, that benefit Black people specifically, that actually harm others, like white people and Asian people. And that is what, I mean, again, that is an issue. Because again, you're actually committing racism. You're actually, you know, you're actually oppressing a certain race. But normally white and Asian. You're actually oppressing them. And again, because you're trying to make up for the past. You can't make up for the past by having present discrimination. It's not going to work. It's only going to make things bad through discrimination in the present towards certain people. That's it. So what you're doing is you're discriminating against white people and Asians now because you're trying to make up for past discrimination that went on years ago for Black folks. Yeah.
Now, there are people who could go too far on the other end and say, you know, actually race, it doesn't even exist. It doesn't matter at all. It's completely irrelevant. I mean, it's a real thing. It matters. It's part of who you are. Just like I'm a man, that matters. It's part of who I am. But with race, it doesn't need to be the central focus of you know, every interaction that you have with someone. You can notice, oh, that person's of a different race. Fine. And then you just move on with your life. And the thing is, when you talk, and we do this in the film, we go and talk to just normal people, both black and white, kind of living their lives a little bit outside of this DEI kind of world. And this is what you find, that it's not a major focus for them. And when you start asking things like, well, is America systemically racist? For these kind of normal people, the question almost doesn't make any sense to them. And I think that's the mode that most people would be in if these grifter types would allow it, but they won't, because that means less influence and power and money for the grifters.
Well, it's really interesting. It reminds me a little bit of the mental health debate, actually. Maybe that's the subject of your next movie. I don't know, but if not, it could be. Because a lot of people, young people in particular, they're almost encouraged to feel like there's something wrong with them. We live in a very victimhood-led society now, where it's almost a badge of honour to have something wrong with you. So people start to look for that. And I was thinking of that as I watched your movie. Different issue, but similar kind of mentality, watching these people who were just so desperate to see racism And what struck me was quite sort of ironic was a lot of them seemed to be white, unless I was mistaking things. It didn't seem that diverse, equal or inclusive in the actual group set up to do all this.
Yeah, there's no question that, and we noticed this making the film, that and many people have noted it sort of anecdotally, that there's a lot of white women who seem to be driving this. Now, it's not all white women. There's also black women. There's and men too. But it does seem like white liberal women are overrepresented in this thing, and a lot of this stuff is targeting white liberal women in particular. Race to Dinner, you saw in the trailer, where you've got these two, Syra Rao and Regina Jackson. They go to dinner and you pay them thousands of dollars and they just sit at your dinner table and call you racist for 2 hours. People pay for this. And that is specifically for white women. White women are the only people invited to take part in that. And so a lot of it is really like targeting that demographic in a really interesting and kind of disturbing way.
And some
guys, man, I grew up in the 80s and early 90s, and I was born in the 1970s. Again, things were not as bad years ago as they are now. I mean, they weren't. Again, I grew up outside of Atlanta for the most part. And outside of Atlanta, I mean, again, it's the suburbs, but there was still a fair amount of black people. And again, we used to hang out with them. They hung out with us. We'd hang out at their house. They would come hang out at ours. We grew up in the same neighborhoods. Again, people get along better years ago. And the people got onto a race, the subject of race. Again, they'd be looked at like, what's wrong with you? White, black, didn't matter. They didn't get on it. Definitely not kids. Definitely not. But again, things were different at that time. They were. And, and the reason why people want to keep this division going and they want to harp on whatever, they want to harp on poor black people and poor oppressed or poor. The reason why they want to do this is because they want to be special. They want to have jobs like these women with Race to Dinner. They want to have jobs. They want to feel special. And they're truly not. But again, they want to feel that. So they want to keep this going. And that's what's happening.
We're saying Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourself from the bad white people. White people feel frightened of black people every 10 seconds. Whiteness robs you of your brain. The entire system has to burn. This country is not saving. I mean, it was scary to listen to that stuff.
It's scary when you think that these people, actually do have power. And the other thing too, the other part of this is that they want to make it so that there's no way out, right? Because they tell you, if you're a white person, they tell you, well, you're racist automatically. And then once they have you, and maybe you say, okay, well, I don't want to be racist anymore, and they give you a whole bunch of things to do. But then at the end of it, they say, oh, well, by the way, you're still racist. You can never not be racist. That's another thing we discovered making the film. When you ask these people, like, at what point can I be not racist anymore? What do I have to do to not be racist? And what they'll tell you is, well, you could be like a little bit less racist, but you can never not be. You're always going to be racist because you're white, and whiteness is inherently racist. That's what they believe. So it's this like hopeless doom spiral,
right,
that they put you in, and the only way to avoid it is just to ignore these people entirely. Which
I mean, did you work out what DEI really is at its core?
Yeah, well, it's left-wing racial ideology, and this is its latest manifestation. When DEI goes away, because it's being it has a negative connotation, that term, to most people now, which is good. But the people pushing it aren't going to stop. They're going to repackage it. Left-wing racial ideology, and that is really simple. It really is just the belief that whiteness is inherently evil, inherently racist. It's the cause of all of society's ills. And they're the oppressors. Everyone else is the oppressed. And that's the basic core idea of this thing. And everything just kind of recycles and revolves around that basic core idea.
You interview Wilfred Riley, the author of Hate Crime Hoax. Now, he's an African-American man himself. He says that the epidemic of hate crimes is pretty well made up. And he uses examples of Jesse Smollett, the Covington Catholic school stories, and so on. I mean, the Smollett one to me was a really insidious story, where you have a very famous black American television star inventing a effective lynching or attempted lynching by two people. And it turned out he'd fabricated the entire thing, paid them to do it, to portray himself as a victim of racism.
Exactly, and it as many people point out that, well, you know, if racism is really as prevalent as these people say, then you shouldn't have to go and invent a hate crime. You know, if you're let's say a non-white person and for some reason you want to be the victim of a hate crime, you would think that it'd be very easy to just walk outside and someone will commit a hate crime against you.
If they had to go out and find, you know, invent racism. Yeah, I mean, that says to me right there, there's more of a demand instead of a supply. I mean, they'd rather have to manufacture race hoax. And again, that's happening all the time. But right now, again, people like me that's white, I'll never be a non-racist. I'll always have a little bit of a bias, a very racist bias. And again, I think a lot of people, I think majority of people do. But the fact of the matter is, man, you're saying that I'm worse off than you. You can sit there and call me names and call me white this, honky, and whatever else. Say that I'm racist and I'm mean, I'm horrible, whatever. You can say whatever you want about me, but I can't say the same thing about you. But you're the good guy and I'm the bad guy. I don't think so. Guys, we live in a world that's upside down. We truly do. Now, I'm not saying that black people are bad. Of course not. But I'm saying, again, if somebody's trying to convince you that you're bad, that you're the problem, when you haven't done anything at all, you know you haven't. But they're telling you to feel bad because you have more privilege because of the color of your skin. You step away. Walk away, because that person that's talking to you is evil. They're being influenced by darkness. It's not real. It's not real. But again, they want you to buy into it. And again, that's why there's so much hate and darkness in the world right now. That's again, right now, darkness is parading as good. You have to feel bad for your whiteness. We have to have DI, affirmative action, whatever, to lift black people up. Again, to make it sound good, but it's evil. Women's rights, which really means kill a baby in the womb. Up till, 9 months? I mean, come on, guys. That is 100% evil. But they're convincing people that's good by way of saying women's rights. Again, this is why so many bad things are happening in the world. Again, they're being told to call good evil and evil good. Guys, man, if you would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thanks. You son of a